He's known as the king of Bling and Iceman.
That was the original Bling. That was Bling
You can tell
Bling.
how old I am.
That was Bling Bling. Now we're just Bling.
A master craftsman whose dazzling and magnificent creations are worn by legendary movie stars, elite athletes, famous musicians.
You've got Colin Powell and Muhammad Ali and Angelina Jolie and 50 Cent, Meryl Streep.
Even presidents.
They all got the top.
And even though he hobnobs with the rich and famous, he's never forgotten his Nigerian roots or how hard it was to achieve success in America, which is why he gives back to those less fortunate. This week on African Voices, we meet the jeweler to the stars, Chris Aire. Shakespeare wrote, "All that glitters is not gold," and in a way, he was right. Because if you visit Chris Aire's shop in Beverly Hills, California, you'll see glittering diamonds, sapphires, rubies, and other precious stones and metals encrusted in watches, rings, bracelets, and anything else he can come up with.
I see the world in a very unique way. I can look at something that's been around for a long time and still have a new interpretation to it.
He once designed a diamond-encrusted cuff priced at $1.7 million and fashioned a $500,000 diamond-coated guitar for hip-hop artist Wyclef Jean. He says inspiration can come from anywhere, at any time.
I see a painting and I'm inspired. Or I look at a little kid doing something. I look at trees sometimes, I'm inspired. Or I look at old, art. Like the African bead chain, which I'm wearing here, is one of our, best-selling neck chains. Was actually inspired just by looking at the African beads, and which is why I, named it the African bead chain. And then I put my own twist on it.
Going his own way as a child growing up in Edo State, Nigeria, didn't always sit well with his parents, especially his father.
My father and I were very close growing up, and just like every African father, he had his, he had my path all pretty much made out for me. I knew there was a lot more out there than there was here, and I wanted to go and, explore that, and he wasn't very happy about that. So our relationship got strained the minute I decided I wanted to go to America. How
difficult is it in African society to go against what your father or your mother has planned for you?
We are in Africa. Africa is a very we are extremely family oriented, and Nigeria is extremely traditional. And my culture, which is the Asian culture, is even more so. So going against the grain is not something that is embraced.
His father was a successful businessman. Chris was expected to follow in his footsteps and go into the family oil business.
It was almost like defying, the rule, but I wasn't defying the rule. I just knew that there was something within me that wanted to experience something that was outside of what, the nomenclature was. And that included for me, stepping out of the circle, so to speak, and breaking sort of that tradition. But it wasn't in defiance. It wasn't, I wasn't trying to be vindictive. I just knew that I would be miserable if I didn't.
When he was 18, he moved to the United States to go to college.
When I was growing up here, to me, America was what I saw on television. It was the Wild Wild West. It was heaven on earth. It was Disneyland.
Heaven on Earth and Disneyland rolled up in one. In his mind, fame, success, and prosperity were just around the corner. And then came reality.
When I first arrived in the U.S., my first job was working at a fast food restaurant. It was Carl's Jr. Because I'd, met a bunch of Nigerians, and they told me that it was impossible for a Nigerian to do anything. And that the only jobs that we could get at that time was being either a security guard or working in a fast food restaurant.
While he worked at making burgers, he was also working on getting an education.
My first goal was to get my bachelor's degree. And so I needed a job as well, because my dad wasn't too happy about that idea. So I had to find ways to support myself, which was why I took the job working graveyard. So I would work I'll go to work at from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. in the morning. And then I'll go home, get a couple of hours nap, and then go to school at 9. And I was at school from 9 to about 4 p.m. And then I went home, got ready, and repeated that again, 5 days a week.
When you graduated from college, you tried a couple of things.
Well, one of the things I tried was, I really wanted to be an actor. You had to be a member of the union to even be considered for a job. And if you were in the union, you weren't considered for a job. And if you didn't have a job, you weren't considered for the union. I'm like, how am I gonna work this out? So I basically just decided, you know what? I can sing too. And you don't need a union for that. So we put a band together with a friend of mine and another girl called Raw Silk, and we just started singing and making records.
Did you guys play gigs?
We didn't really play gigs, we just wanted to release records. So we were in the studio a lot, producing, writing, arranging, and we put out a couple of records with the band, and they didn't really do well. And then I went solo and put out a record that actually went up to number 8 on the street charts in LA. And I was like, wow, this is awesome. I'm gonna continue this. Now people are gonna come chasing me down to give me a record deal. It still didn't happen.
Did you at any point before this think I should call my father and maybe he can help me out a bit because I'm struggling?
No, absolutely, I did. Living in America and having to be broke and having to sleep in my car and having to do things that, I just kind of felt at the time was not comfortable things to do, I often thought, why don't I just go back home?